Okay, so today we are going to be talking about great and terrible series endings. So I'll have linked in the description the first two videos I did. I talked about incredible series starters, incredible first books in a series. Then I talked about sequels that made me change my mind, either positive or negative, about how I thought I was going to feel about a series. Either the sequel blew me away and hooked me, or it really let me down. And now we're going to talk about endings that blew me out of the water. Phenomenal, incredible endings to series, or really disappointing ones. This is going to be the shortest list in this 3-part video thing that I'm doing because I don't have that many finished series. I have a lot of open series, either because I just haven't gotten around to the ending or because the author hasn't gotten around to the ending. There's a lot of open series that I'm currently reading. Anyway, here's a list of series that I finished that had really dynamic endings as far as how I felt about them, whether positive or negative. But before we get into the list, a sponsored unboxing. So Book of the Month is a subscription that helps people to discover the best new release, early release, and debut adult fiction books. They offer 5 new release books every month, and members get to pick one to be shipped to their home. Or if they want more, in addition to one of their featured boxes, members can add up to 2 featured books, trending books, or previous books as add-ons to their monthly purchase. And members can skip a month anytime they want with no penalty. So for the February books, we have The Kindest Lie. This sweeping story traces a woman's return to her struggling hometown and the hope she finds in confronting her past. A Girl, this haunting exploration of trauma and survival, is a gripping portrait of family, violence, and memory. Infinite Country, lyrical and poignant, this multi-generational story follows the lives of the Colombian family separated by borders. The Four Winds, from the Texas plains to the California coast, this Depression-era tale follows a family striving for a better life. Honey Girl, when a classic Virgo spontaneously married, she starts re-examining her life and what it is she truly wants. So head over to bookofthemonth.com and get your first books. And your first month is only $9.99 with the code, which will be linked in the description of this video. Oh, one more thing before we get started. This is all spoiler-free. I'm going to be talking vaguely about things that were great and terrible about these endings, so you're free to watch the whole video, but there's also timestamps in the descriptions in case you don't even want to hear my spoiler-free thoughts about certain series enders. Okay, first book in the series, our first series that I'm going to be talking about is probably the most obvious one on this list, and that is the Wheel of Time series. So I really enjoyed the start of this series. The first 6 books were great, in my opinion. Books 7 through 10 were much more of a struggle, especially 8 and 10 were a big struggle for me. And then books 11 through 14 were fantastic. This is the longest series I've ever read, and 14 books, especially since almost all 14 of those books are really, really large in page count. It was a journey getting through this series, but the payoff was completely there. Don't get me wrong, this series is flawed, and I pointed out those flaws, or at least what I felt were flaws, throughout my entire series review as I went through reading through the Wheel of Time series. But, oh my goodness, I was so happy with the way it all came together in the end. I was so pleased with the intricate way every character in the end had a specific role. It's a chosen one trope, and I think that Robert Jordan did a phenomenal job of taking that chosen one trope and doing something really fantastic with it in the final battle. I think he wrote the final battle really well. There were very few parts of the final battle, and it was a very intricate, very expansive, lots of characters to balance. There were very few parts that I was kind of disappointed with the role that the characters played. I think it was great. And even one of my major complaints about the series, I think that he resolved it in a really satisfying way. That's the best I can do. If you want spoilers, check out my spoiler-filled review of book 14. If you want more in-depth non-spoilers, check out my series review. Both will be linked. Next series on the list is Death Note. So I think even the fandom of Death Note, even the big fans of Death Note, kind of largely, not universally, but largely agree that there's a certain point in Death Note where it stops being incredible. It's not necessarily that it turns bad, but the high of the first half of the series doesn't stay consistent throughout the entire series. Definitely in my opinion. I'm not trying to speak for anybody else. I was told that, and this is a short series to read as far as manga series go anyway, but I was told that the ending is really, really satisfying. So if we had just condensed some of the later volumes, then the series would be, perfect. I don't actually agree with that. I think that the ending was good. I think that it was solid, and I think that it was satisfying enough. But it wasn't good enough to make up for how much of a step down the latter half of the series was, in my opinion. So I actually, while I think that the ending was solid, I don't think that it still let me down. The ending still let me down because I think that it had to be a lot better than that in order to make up for the step down that it took. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that the second half of the series is terrible, but the first half was just so good, you guys. The first half of Death Note was just so fantastic that it really bummed me out that the second half drug out as long as it did. This is rare for me. Usually an ending can totally destroy a series for me. Death Note is one of the few series where I think that it took a left turn and didn't really recover from that left turn well. And yet, I still think that it's just a series that I can't stop thinking about because the first half was so incredible. I enjoyed it so much. I'm probably overhyping it now, but I just really liked it, guys. Hero of Ages, I'll just be super brief on because I did talk about Mistborn in the first video, the great beginnings, and I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, but I really liked the ending of this trilogy. I know that it's kind of controversial. Some people were pretty disappointed with the ending, but I'm not one of those people. I thought that the way he brought everything together and took little details from book 1 and made them significant by the end of book 3, I loved the way he did it. This was my first experience with Sanderson, and this was my first series ending with Sanderson as well, and this was the book that made me realize, oh, this author really, really thinks things through, and he's an author that I can trust to make it all matter and make it really satisfying by the end. I was really, really happy with the way this series wrapped up. Really happy. The Hunger Games is a little bit different. So I read this series, I don't remember how old I was. It was a long time ago. I was still living at home, and I loved books 1 and 2, and book 3. No! Mockingjay was such a disappointment. Not only was the general plot of it not very interesting to me, I really wasn't interested in very much that was trying to happen in book 3, but I don't know how to do this one spoiler free. There were certain major critical emotional events that just kind of happened, and then we moved on, and then we never really came back to deal with the emotions of them. There were other certain things that I had been waiting for the resolution on since book 1 that I think were dragged out way too long, and by the time we got the resolution, man, it was so disappointing. It was just not good enough for how long it got dragged out. And just in general, I don't even think that it was mildly satisfying. I don't even think that the ending was good, but didn't live up to the ones before. I just didn't like it. I don't want to believe that book 3 exists. I want to make my own fan canon ending to book 2 and call it a duology. It was so disappointing. I didn't like it even a little. And I'm gonna end this video on a much more positive note. We're gonna talk about the First Law trilogy. Oh my goodness. I enjoyed books 1 and 2 a lot. A lot. I thought they were both great. Book 3, I enjoyed it so very much. I had a great time with the first 2 books, but book 3 is the book that kind of changed my idea of Joe Abercrombie. This was the book that made me realize, oh, he's a favorite author of mine. I'm gonna need to read all that he writes. And I still believe that. He's such an incredible author. I am so impressed with his character work in his books. I'm so impressed with his ability to balance different cultures and different belief systems and different ideologies in this very cohesive and natural way. Every character feels like their backstory and like every decision that they make and every thought that they have is real and earned and not forced. He is able to balance so much so well. He's not a very plot-focused author in the trilogy, though Best Served Cold was just Joe showing off, I think. But the trilogy is not a very plot-focused trilogy, yet in book 3, the whole story that we've been very slowly going through comes together in a way that I really liked. I think Joe has such unique and brave endings to his stories and things that you wouldn't really expect, and I could see how his endings might make people go, wait, that? But for me, I go, wait, that? Ooh, that's cool. That's the best I could do, spoiler free. Anyway, that is a list of great and terrible endings in my opinion. I would love to chat with you more about it in the comments. I post videos every Tuesday through Friday. I'll see you guys again soon.